One thing that we have noticed is the hardest thing for the people is understanding what it is that CPS is doing, understanding what it is that the government has done. Well, watch this.
Here's the Congressional Research Service. Federal government corporations and interview. Kevin R. Kosar, analyst in American National Government, June 8th, 2011. See, guys, I don't come with some freaking bullcrap and just start talking like that lady did. I'll come with some freaking fire on paper. Like, I went to school for psychology and studied a lot of scholarly journal articles. I don't play with research. I'll come bring that fire and show you to your face. All right, watch this. Summary. To assist Congress in its oversight activities, this report provides an overview of the government. Watch this. Corporation as an administrative model. Didn't I just show y'all the Administrative Procedures Act? So I'm showing y'all that the government will bring an administrative model and corporation in order to make revenue. Watch this. As defined by in this report, a government corporation is a government agency that is established by Congress to provide a market-oriented public service and to produce revenues that meet or approximate its expenditures. By this definition, currently there are 17 governmental corporations, right? So the government start to create corporations. Now, it tells you here that the United States Postal Service is one. Watch down here. See, you're gonna start learning how they think when you get wise and you read their own documents. Watch this. Within the executive branch, sorry, trying to get this thing to focus. Sorry. Within the executive branch, no agency is responsible for the oversight and supervision of government corporations. You wonder why CPS can have the federal corporation contract with the corporation of the state. They do private business and nobody understands why nobody has any control over it. Oh, let's see. Neither the House or the Senate have single committees with responsibility to oversee all government corporations. Instead, each corporation is overseen by committees with jurisdiction over its policy area. See, these people are running games with policy, not law. And what will happen is that these people wanted to use, thank you so much for sharing, because this is important for us. They wanted to use these government corporations for a reason. Watch this. Congress at times has found government corporations as attractive governance option. Really? We give you power to govern, you're going to give it to an agency. Watch this. A well-designed and operated government corporation does not require annual appropriations because it generates revenues from the provisions of goods and services. So it's doing business. Moreover, watch this. Each government corporation may be endowed with the administrative flexibilities required to accomplish its goals, while remaining responsive to Congress and the president. Finally, as noted, the government corporation may be established to serve an enduring purpose, or, watch this, may serve as a vehicle for privatization. So that means they can create a corporation federally or statewide that will make money. And then they will use that money many times for their own benefit. And then you find out the government has no control over them because they're private membership associations and they're out of the jurisdiction of government. Watch this. Let me show y'all something. Watch this. This is going to blow y'all away. Watch this. At least 3 factors may contribute to the interest in government corporations. First, the restrictive character of the federal budget encourages agencies to develop new sources of revenue. See, y'all kids are a source of revenue. Child support enforcement is a source of revenue because they steal money from Social Security and use the program as an excuse. Watch this. Outsourcing services to the private sector and to other agencies. See, they're not responsible for following the law because the other agencies are responsible. And to attempt to avoid increasing outlays, cash, Second, experience suggests that it is politically easier for corporate bodies to be exempted by Congress from federal government's general management laws. Are y'all seeing this? If you don't want to freaking go by the general management laws, you also don't want to go by the Constitution, you can just open up a private entity, and that private entity can work under its own bylaws, and it's not the government doing it now. Example, Freedom of Information Act and employee compensation restrictions. See, when you want to send out a Freedom of Information Act because the government is bound by the law, if they get a private entity to do it and you send them a Freedom of Information Act, they can say, well, hey, we lost 200 kids in Arizona recently, 500 before, but we ain't got to tell you because we're a private entity and we keep that to ourselves. And people are like, how in the world is this possible? It's created that way. Watch this. Than it is for traditional agencies. Finally, the corporate concept appears to many correct or otherwise to be supportive of the new public management that emphasizes entrepreneurship. Guys, why do we need our government to be entrepreneurs when we're paying them with tax dollars? See, I tell y'all that they get paid in the public by our tax dollars through the general fund, and at the same time, they're running side businesses where they're talking about being entrepreneurs, using the government programs, selling your kids, child support enforcement, taking money from Social Security, splitting it up between themselves, donating it to the general fund, making millions and billions of dollars. And they're doing it risk-taking and private, watch this, private sector practices and federal administration. This is why we need the Administrative Procedures Act, because they'll use the administrative courts and systems to take stuff from the people and call that entrepreneurship, risk-taking, and private sector practices. If you want to go get a business, go open up a business like every other American. But why in the world are these people running private corporations to steal from us? See, the little silly lady who came on, she don't understand why they do this. I understand why they do it because I've read their own stuff. Y'all want to see some more? Tell me give me a thumbs up if this is making sense to y'all. I just want to make sure that we on the same page. Watch this. The continuing interest in the government corporation prompts question as to their legal character. People like, what the freak is this? Right? Their utility vis-a-vis traditional agencies and their limitations as units of governmental institutions. They can't have power over you because they're not government anymore. Once they start going into private practices of the private sector and making money off of services and making contracts to give people services and watch their kids for them for money and take their kids for money and give social, psychological tests for money and all this stuff and contracting with parents, they stop becoming government. The Clearfield Trust Doctrine says you're no longer government. So how the freak you gonna sever my rights, you clown? How the freak you gonna take something from me? You can't because you're no longer government. And they're concerned about this. There are times when it may be an appropriate choice and times when it may not. Understanding the unique character of government management based as it is upon tenets of public law provides guidance and weighing in these choices. Now, the public law is the general law. And the thing is that based on the general law, they can't do a lot of the things that they're doing. So in order to get past that and make a lot of money in their private little businesses, they just run game by creating corporations and entities that will help them to make money but block their need to go by the law. So the thing is, guys, when you got these people who talk about what's going on and how somebody will take your kids without something being wrong, well, if they get paid off of every kid they take, then it makes a big conflict of interest. And then you see them asking for statutes for the legislature to allow. It applies to your country too. As long as you're in a common law land, it applies to you. They just don't want you to know. Once they start taking them dang Federal Reserve notes, as Tafiti is talking about, they automatically dropped into the level of a private corporation and private citizens. They are no longer government. Now, I'm not coming to y'all just talking out the side of my neck. I'm coming to y'all with documentation. And none of these dang trolls or attorneys are going to be able to fight this. Y'all are being given freaking full-fledged power today. No holds bar freaking real life freaking power and strength, and nobody can stop it because God was ready for you to have it. So no man can stop it. They can sit up here and hate if they want to, but they can't touch what's happening right now. History is being made right now, and you guys are part of it. And as you share it with other people, watch what happens. Watch how this whole thing gets flipped over. Watch how many people wake up. I'm telling y'all, I'm declaring it. I know God got us. Watch this. Historically, the federal government has been involved in a few commercial enterprises. There were some early instances and federal government participating in otherwise private corporate enterprises on a shared ownership basis. See, when the government start going into business with private citizens, it's game over. Most notably, the first and second banks of the United States, this practice came into question, however, as consequences of a Supreme Court ruling in 1819. From that time to today, the federal government has tended to avoid sharing ownership with private entities. But CPS is a private contract with the Secretary. Look up 674, Title 42, 674, payment to states. You're going to see that the Secretary is working with neglect and abuse courts, private individuals, and all they do is get up under contract. It's an ex-contract to relationship, which removes their government powers. Okay? It is not possible to hold on to your government powers when you start partnering with private entities. You could go to anybody in the common law teaching movement. You could go to anybody in the secure party creditor movement. You could go to anybody in the who is a Moor. You could go to anybody across the board, and they will possibly be able to tell you about the Clearfield Trust Doctrine. They cannot be government and still be able to have power when they're making private entities and corporations to take stuff from you. And they're so slick, they say, we're giving out services. We're giving out, no, you ain't giving out services. You're freaking forcing people at the barrel of a gun to take something from you. And you're working as if you're government, but you're not really working at government. You see? You see what I'm saying, y'all? I'm just showing y'all the truth. Look, the United States Postal Service is one of them. The Postal Service went from the post office to now the Postal Service. And what they do is they're adding money onto things that we used to get for free or for cheap. And they're making it a business. Watch this. Watch this. Experience indicates that the corporate form of organization is peculiarly adapted to the administration of government programs. Now notice, y'all, CPS, the neglect and abuse stuff is actually the ASFA program. Child Support Enforcement Program. Title 42 got these programs, which are not laws, which are, watch this, predominantly of a commercial character. They can't go into commerce and business. They're hired to protect our property and our rights. And when they go into business, they are no longer working as government. So they can't be talking about taking your kids as a revenue producing service. They can't talk about taking money from you for child support and call that a service. Child support enforcement is a service. They have a freaking webpage where they tell you about customer service. Programs is not law. Watch this. Those which are revenue producing or at least potentially self-sustaining involve a large number of business type transactions with the public. They go to you and they say, hey, look, would you like us to give you health services? Would you like for us to give you services so you could go visit your child? Would you like to give us, commercial is not government. This is business type transaction. This is why they have the Administrative Procedures Act. It's administrative. Administration deals with business, not with people. That's why it says associations, partnerships. They're saying they are partnering with you to provide a service for your kids. And if you don't go by the agreement, they're stealing them from you. Programs are not law. There's no such thing. Program is something that they do that gives a provision for somebody later. This ain't got nothing to do with the dang law. It's business. It's how to make money. They're looking at how to make money. Watch this. Watch this. In their business operations, such programs require greater flexibility than the customary type of appropriations budgets for ordinarily permits. As a rule, the usefulness of a corporation rests on its ability to deal with the public in a manner employed by private enterprise for similar work. They're telling you it's private, guys. You can't be in the public and in the private. And Yvonne, I prayed before this video. You will see it in the beginning. I prayed and God didn't open up the doors. This thing did better than many of the videos I've done in recent history. Watch this. That said, Congress has created many entities titled government corporations and corporations that do not meet these criteria. The Legal Services Corporation, the Corporation of Public Broadcasting, and newly created International Clean Energy Foundation, blah, 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 blah. A principal intention behind assigning this status and title was to provide considerable insulation from oversight by the central management agencies and the application of general management laws. They created this so it had to deal with the law in a certain way, and it's not like we put in the dang Constitution and the Bill of Rights. They're not using the law. They are using their own private law. That's why when you go into those CPS courts, they can hold your records and not give them to you because it's private. It don't belong to you. It belongs to them. You walked into Walmart and they tricked you into making an agreement to let Walmart take your stuff as if you're a United States citizen, when as a state national, they had no right to take anything from you except for by a court of law. That means that every single kid they took, every single dollar they took from child support enforcement has never been a judicial determination. They never had the right to do it unless you went to a criminal court, got prosecuted in an Article 3 court for wrong by a jury of your peers or by the law of the land. Watch this. No two federal corporations are completely alike. However, there are sufficient commonalities among the several corporations that it is possible to make some generalizations about their authority, organization, mission, and behavior. Legal status. Government corporations, no matter what function they perform or how private they may appear to the public or themselves, see, they know that these systems were used to act like they were private and the government couldn't control them. But now they're going to tell part of the truth. Are agents of the state subject to constitutional limitations? See, I showed you on the Constitution where you have the right to reform your government and nobody can take anything from you without due process of law. See, right here they're saying even though we make you so that you're private and it looks like you can do whatever you want to do, y'all still are bound by the Constitution. So that means the people still have them bound even though they don't act like it. They're trying to make money for themselves in a little private little scheme and use their attorneys to write up laws for them to make them look private like they ain't got nothing to do with the government, but they're still bound by the Constitution. This is why the people can come together under the common law and make judgments and take every single power that the court has. We gave it to them in the Constitution. So we have the right to make judgment. We have the right to prosecute these people. We have the right to remonstrate and show the legislature they committed fraud and they committed treason by giving these people the power to steal from us. They are bound by the Constitution. Watch this. Are agents of the state subject to constitutional limitations? As the Supreme Court concluded in 1995 LeBron case, a government corporation has inherent legal characteristics that cannot be shed simply by legislative language or by corporate fiat. Woo! Y'all ain't feeling me. Let's read that again. The 1995 LeBron case, a government corporation has certain inherent legal characteristics that cannot be shed. See, they want to get rid of it and say, we ain't got no liability. We can get rid of your kids and give them to sex traffickers, take your money, take your cars, take your houses. If the legislature say we can. See, the legislature thinks that they're going to write little legislation saying CPS has the right to kick your door down and take your kids. CPS got the right to take your kids and sell them for a big amount of money. CPS can keep most of the money and then they can throw the rest of it in the general fund where we can get some money too. Characteristic cannot be shed simply by legislative language. See, the courts say, look, man, I ain't got time to hear the legislature telling people they can do what they don't have the power to do against the people. You ain't slick. Once the people recognize their people, watch this, or by corporate fiat. Fiat is falsity, fake. They're fake corporate entity that try to come and try to act like they're not sitting in a position where they only have power because they were connected to the government, that don't work in the real courts. Watch this. The nature and function performed managing a railroad has no effect upon, watch this, no effect upon governmental character. The government and private sectors are fundamentally separate. The statutes of law say that you can't mix the public with the private. The governmental and private sectors are fundamentally separate and distinct, with the distinctions based largely in legal theory, not economic theory. I don't care what business you freaking doing. I don't care if you're doing CPS work. I don't care if you're a private corporation, the DMV. You don't have the right to mix the public and the private. So you can't take public tax dollars, start your business, then make millions of dollars off of the kids, work inside of private courts. The private and the public is to forever be separate. So these clowns running a private business, acting like they're government, as the Administrative Procedure Act shows, is a trespass against the people, and they're stealing your livelihood from you, doing acts of tyranny against you, and their own documents tell how they set it up. Watch this. This understanding is essential to recognizing both the potentiality and limitations of the government corporate concept. The government corporation remains government in character until Congress determines it shall be fully private, therefore coming under private law. Do y'all hear me or not? CPS cases have to contract with you to take your kids and to do all the stuff in court. So they'll just make up a contract because it is private law. All the statutes that the legislature is writing for CPS, they don't know, is really private law and has nothing to do with the people. It is private law that is only done by contract. Private law is special law that is not general to the whole public group or the group of the people equally. So they can't make a public law for a private entity to be able to take your kids, to be able to take money from you and call it child support and split up your Social Security. They are committing a fraud, guys. I'm showing you. This is out of the federal government corporations, an overview. Now, watch this. The government corporation remains governmental in character. Not that it's governmental, but it's governmental in character until Congress determines it shall be fully private, thereby coming under private law. See, when they got to get these darn contracts with you guys, they call them safety plans, and they want to take you to court, and which is not even a court, it's an administrative agency. They can bring you into an administrative agency when everything is private. Because when it's private, they don't have to let Kelly Townsend in Arizona come into the court hearings. They can kick her out of the Deagle case, and they can kick her out of this recent case because it's a private court. It is not government. They don't have control over it. It's bound by contracts. It's going into Walmart and deciding what Walmart is going to do with your kids. But the attorneys ain't going to tell you this. They're not going to let you know what's happening. They're not going to tell you that they're just running a scheme. Okay? They're just running a scheme. And because you believe that you are a person, a company, you walk your butt into them dang courtrooms, and it's not a court, and they say, because you're here, I got jurisdiction over here because you telling me you want to be here. Y'all see that? I'm showing you from their own documents. I'm showing you from their own documents. I'm not showing you from my own mind. I'm not saying, guys, I think we might be getting done wrong. I'm not saying, guys, I want you to listen to David Jose. I'm nothing. I'm a nobody. Okay? I'm a nobody. But what I'm doing is I'm letting you read their own stuff. Look at this. Oh, I got to show y'all this. Y'all gonna laugh. Because see, a lot of y'all are going to these courts and paying these people, paying for drug tests, paying for all that. Watch this. Traditional agencies of the United States receive the preponderance of their financial support from funds appropriated by Congress. Government corporations, on the other hand, generally receive most, if not all, of their funds from users of their services. Y'all going into these dang courtrooms, using their services, using their visitation services. People say, David Jose didn't go to his court case. There was not a court case. I went to the trial. When I found out that it was a private business, I'm like, hold on, I'm not even supposed to be here. Watch this. Thus, the latter relationship has, watch this, business character in which it is the obligation of the corporate body to provide services as long as the buyers are willing to pay. As long as y'all willing to keep working with them and going to their courts and paying them money, they got the obligation to keep giving you benefits, keep giving you services. You see that? Come on, y'all. This being the case, revenues, expenditures, and even personnel will tend to fluctuate according to consumer demand. They're saying they're doing this to y'all because y'all want to be consumers of their services. Y'all want them to give you mental health services for your kids. So they need to take them and then they're going to get rid of them. Watch this. Many members of Congress feel somewhat uneasy with broad business type budgets, also referred to as budget programs. To be sure, Congress can alter these budget programs and can limit the use of corporate funds for any purpose. But this option is seldom employed, faced with complex projections and agencies with little direct budgetary impact. They're making their own money. Members of Congress give corporate bodies marginal attention. As a general assessment, the corporations come under comparatively little congressional scrutiny. Ain't nobody watching them. They just stealing your kids, doing whatever they want to do, making money. You know, it's just business as usual. We ain't got to watch them. They making their own money. This is good for them. Except for when there is some political or financial threat evident. Oh, if it's a political or financial threat, I think we need to stand up and make a political threat because we realize they don't have the power to rule over us with some private business or financial threat. Let's make them personally liable. As Seidman notes, in essence, the business type budget provides for qualitative rather than quantitative review of proposed corporate expenses. See, it's all about money to them, y'all. It's all about money. Watch this. There is no one form of governance necessarily associated with government corporations. Whether a government corporation is best managed by a full-time board, a chief executive officer, like CPS in Arizona has a CEO, selected by a part-time board, or reasonable to whatever, a part-time board consisting of cabinet-level officials, y'all know about that in some of the state or other agencies, a mixed board of governmental and private agencies. See, they got all these ways to take care of them, their systems. A private investment corporation or a single administrator responsible to a department secretary, that's the executive branch. Watch this. And ultimately to the president is an open question. There are positives and negatives to the various options for corporate governance. Okay? So what you guys have to understand is that these people are creating businesses to run over what it is that you guys has as your little ones, as your own money, your own property. These people are creating corporations because it's easier to steal from you and take your kids because there's nobody watching over. There is no oversight. Watch this. You wonder why there's no oversight for CPS and Congress don't want to hear it? It's because it's no financial issue for them. Nobody knows what the truth is. Watch this. Yep, same thing in Holland, my friend Arthur. Watch this. There is at present little central management agency oversight or supervision of government corporations as a category of agency in the executive branch. That's where CPS is. Nor is there any central unit charged with designing government corporations from the perspective of presidential or central management interests. Government corporations today are largely perceived as discrete entities. It ain't connected to the government. It's just a secret little entity doing its own thing. Watch this. Each with its own potential and administrative requirements. It's foreign to our law. It got its own bylaws, its own private membership association with rules and regulations on how they gonna do stuff. It ain't got nothing to do with the people and the Constitution. I'm telling y'all. And each with its own route and degree of political accountability. Individual corporations come under scrutiny from time to time by OMB and Congress, or more precisely, a congressional committee responsible for oversight. More often than not, The immediate impetus for the oversight follows from indications that a corporation is operation at a financial risk, or there is an appearance of wrongdoing. See, if we don't come out at the same time and say we cannot do this, they cannot do this to us, and this is wrong, and they're stealing kids and trespassing against the people, then how in the world would they ever be able to come out and say that there has been wrongdoing? If they can hide the fact that they're doing wrong against us and nobody talks about it, then, and we don't come together, we can't fight. This is the problem, guys. We can't fight and win the way we want to because we won't come together and show what these people are really doing. But when we do, it's fire. Like today, people get knowledge. Watch this. The executive branch treatment of management responsibility respecting government corporations as a class of organizations tend to place additional burdens on Congress. They don't want to do the work. And its committee to determine if the corporations are respecting the provisions of general management laws. See, these people will go and not follow the law. They will not follow the law because nobody's holding them accountable, and the legislature don't want to do it. We need to stand up. Watch this. The government corporation concept may be considered a useful alternative to privatization of some agency, or it may be employed as a transition step toward eventual full privatization. Our interest here is limited to the corporation as a transition option. The principal utility of the transitional government corporation is that it can demonstrate marketability and asset value. This is talking about making money, y'all. Critical elements in any successful privatization venture. So they're letting these agencies run over the people because they know they don't have to respect the law. And they can make tons of money, and they can act like it's a private enterprise, even though the government never had the power to rule over us with privatized entities. Watch this. Another characteristic of a private corporation, legally organized and defined as such, is the right to cancel a program or withdraw from an activity if it is not deemed in the fiduciary interest. Watch this. Fiduciary interest of the shareholders. Y'all keep hearing that word in y'all CPS courts. The shareholders. So notice if it's not in the fiduciary interest of the shareholders. So they want to make sure that they take care of the shareholders' profit, but they ain't talking about the rights of the people. So when CPS comes and take your kids, there's a whole bunch of shareholders that got the ability to profit and to benefit over money. Benefit with money by using these private entities or these semi-private enemies, right? Now, watch this. The federal government is a corporation, if we pay attention, for whatever reason, choose to directly divest itself of commercial activity or asset and not follow the transition corporation option to establish its value in the market. So they can kill it at any given time, right? So let's look at the conclusion. There's little managerial oversight at present of government corporations as an institutional category by either Congress, President, or Congress. What oversight there is tends to be corporation specific. So it's private business specific. It ain't got nothing to do with the government. They're running their own business the way they want to. In the case of Congress, corporations are assigned to committees of subject matter jurisdiction. A GAO report recommended that corporations properly require both subject matter and management oversight, and that the GCCA should be reconstituted to establish in law the characteristics of various types of corporate bodies. Government corporations may be viewed as permanent agencies to perform continuing governmental function. Okay. Sorry, guys. I know it's a lot of reading, but I need you guys to see the truth. We gave power to the corporation, guys. So it to the state entities. There are trustees, so they're not supposed to be working in two different types of systems. The future of government corporations as of a category or federal organization appears generally bright, although they are not widely understood in executive management circles. They need for the executive branch and Congress to develop new organizational structures that take into account both the public law requirements of governmental status. See, They're admitting here that the public law or general law is what goes for everybody. But they're saying that these private entities or semi-private entities, they need to have somebody come help them with their structure so they realize they got to acknowledge the public law. But for now, they ain't doing it. And the flexibility of that properly accompanies corporate bodies dependent upon revenues for services may increase. See, they want to find out how to make more money. If we get them to follow the general law and we can figure out how to set that all up, we might even be able to make more money. But the problem is that they're not going by the law. The managerial quality of the law establishing a corporation may be a critical variable in determining the success or failure of that enterprise. Guys, they are running private business enterprise as the government. We never told them to do that. They're making money for themselves, splitting up money, mixing up the private and the public. You can't mix the private and the public. I showed you guys, or they just told they were mixing the private and the public. If the conceptual basis of the law establishing a corporation or economic assumptions therein are faulty, as was allegedly with the case of the Synthetic Fuels Corporation in the late 1970s, a government corporation may become a liability to the executive branch and face a short tenure. See, when you start hurting them with money and proving that they're doing wrong and they're not standing in the way they're supposed to by the law, they become a liability and they want to get rid of them. This is why we got to come together as a people and go after them privately and publicly. On the other hand, in the federal government corporation, if a federal government corporation is designed to conform with public law, see, if public law is for everybody, if a federal government corporation is designed to conform with public law, governmental management principles, and sound economics, a corporate agency may provide a creative instrument to promote the public policy objectives of elected officials. Now, look at what this just said here, y'all. Pay close attention. The elected officials want to make money. They want to get stuff done. They want to work in the private. Watch this. On the other hand, if a federal government corporation is designed to conform with the public law, governmental management principles, and sound economics, a corporate agency, not government, a corporate agency may provide a creative instrument to promote the public policy, not law, objectives of elected officials. So the elected officials are using the corporate agency to promote the public policy and objectives that they want, which is to make money, which is what it kept telling you. They're making money off of giving services to the people. So the people who are working as public officers in their official capacity are directing corporate agencies to do business in the private to make them money on the side. Although it has been the purpose of the report to emphasize the distinctive characteristics of federal government corporations, it is important to conclude with a statement of their shared characteristics with other federal agencies. The mission of both appropriations finance agencies of government corporations is the same: to implement the laws passed by Congress. Now, the laws that's passed by Congress, guys, could be private law.
In our movement, it's not about who's the smartest, who knows the most. The biggest thing that we have to do to win is to make sure that we teach the truth. And so I hope that you are well fed, and I pray that I was able to make you think. As we end, I want to let you know that I know what it's like to feel the pain of not understanding what it is that you're fighting. I know what it's like being a dad and a husband trying to solve the issues that my family is facing, but I can't figure out what it is that I'm fighting. I know what it's like to go through day after day studying the law, digging and digging and digging, begging to God, asking for the answers so that you can solve these issues. And so I know that we have done much study, we have learned much, and we're going to fight like crazy. So I want you to be happy. I want you to have joy and stand up and feel good, because we are winning.